You're on the air with Michael Tessarian.
Thank you very much. In an effort to be for speed, I'm going to kind of babble quick. It seems like the controlled media is the most useful tool in their toolbox, and if we could, do you think there's any way we could possibly, we have to come up some way to break up that monopoly, perhaps through the use of their own fairness doctrine, because we don't have much, like...
Yeah, but they're going to selectively enforce that and use that to shut me down. That's all. That was always selectively used. We need to intensify the web, not let them take it over, not take it for granted while we still have it right now. Just each of you individually, waking up friends and neighbors and family, is an unstoppable force. There are leaders out there listening right now that will dwarf what Michael Tessarian, Alex Jones, and many others have done. Okay, you just have to start the fight, start the battle, and that will lead you into just amazing opportunities.
Oh, thank you. And just real quick, in all his research, this Israeli identity message of the European races actually being the supposedly lost tribes of Israel.
Yes, well, I mean, that goes back to what I said earlier.
Also.
Yeah, let me get Michael to comment on it, but let me just comment. We told you the Queen of England is coronated on, the Stone of Jacob, where supposedly Abraham was going to sacrifice him. And so, yes, they believe that this goes back to the Merovingian line. You want to explain this?
Well, you're totally right. I was just going to say that we are in the hands of people who are dynastically linked to these Merovingians, who themselves, their ancestry goes all the way back into Egypt. And Mick, if you pick up my book on the Irish origins of civilization, you'll have an enlightening experience, because you see, when people like yourself ask questions like this, it's very important to identify the terms. Who are the 12 tribes of Israel? Who are the lost tribes of Israel? What we got to do is analyze those very terms and find out who are we really talking about, because the image that's been presented to us from official sources is not even the true image. That's a made-for-TV, made-for-the-history books, sort of a description of who these people actually are. That's like a sort of a dance on a theater, but you got to understand those are actors. What lies behind
There's the real tribes, and then there's the counterfeit.
You bet, yeah. And we've been handed the counterfeit. The time has come now to look behind the passion play and find out who is really operating behind these sort of, as you say, the lost tribes. It's a fascinating story of who the real Jews are, who the real Judaics are. We're using those terms as has been handed down to us from the establishment. They're not even the correct terms. So often when we're bandying terms around like this, we're not even using them as their true occult definition. This is the biggest problem. What does a Jew, the word, mean to a Freemason is a totally different meaning of that word than it is to, say, the layman on the street, you see. So the definition of terms is a research, is a time to study, to find out, first of all, we're not even using the right definition.
All right, Michael Tessarian, final segment coming up. More of your phone calls straight ahead. Stay with us. We're going to skip this break.
More than 7.
Okay, I'm going to go back to calls right now. Let's talk to Michael in Texas. You're on the air, Michael. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Alex?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for taking my call. Michael, I sure appreciate the work you do, too. Since the beginning of these thought forms of this oligarchy, as you said earlier, around 1500 B.C., the civilizations that have followed, the reason why they've been able to continue this is we've never been able to rise above their low-level vibration, and that they so cleverly sustain through their rituals that you were speaking about a while ago. My question is, how do we go about addressing that and those rituals? I mean, is it something that we can do through our own meditations to, for instance, govern the world with golden light?
See, I don't get into all the New Age stuff, and I appreciate your call. I'm going to let Michael comment on that. This is action. This is action. This is in the streets. I mean, let's say you're spiritually awake and alive. It is going to physically manifest. Look at India, where they're all filling it with golden light, and it's a hellhole. Now, I don't know if Michael agrees with that, but Michael, you want to comment?
Yeah, I do agree with that, because what we have to understand, Michael, is that there is a two-pronged approach to this. You first have to secure your own spiritual and your own moral and your own mental sovereignty. And that, remember, is different for every person. That's why I do not, subscribe to A to Z, fix-all, one-size-fits-all, systems here. This is a very individualistic study. It's an individualistic work. You have to use deconstructive models just as much as you have to have constructive models. You have to study your enemy to know what weapons they're using and how they're employing it. And it very much starts See, I never separate any of this that we're talking about from spiritual activity. It is all part of.
Yeah, let me make a point here. Let me make a point and get your take on it, Michael. Whenever I'm threatened by the New World Order, whenever things seem dark, I cannot even look at my own children, other people's children, innocence, goodness, beauty, a green field, the sky, the stars. And I know I'm part of something bigger, and I'm not trying to grasp and hold and be greedy, even with my own life. And then with that, a great peace comes over me, and I realize that I'm on the path of goodness and righteousness, not that I'm perfect, and so there's no more fear, but it's the willingness to fight. People say, oh, just don't be scared, go along with it. That's the ultimate form of surrender to evil. No, it is because I have love and because I don't have fear that I do stand up against evil. Do you see the point I'm making?
I see it perfectly, and we owe a debt to all those individuals of the past. This is one of my strong motives, is that we owe a debt to all those people, all those children, even of our own family lines, who suffered in the mines, who suffered in the factories, who lost hands, who were maimed, who starved, who fought.
Stay there, start over. We're going to come back to the full audience. Here we go. They say no rest for the wicked. I'm not very wicked. I don't get very much rest. It's kind of the opposite. Michael Desarian, I was bringing up standing up against evil, how that is empowering, how once you just love humanity, that I think that's a big part of the solution. Just that mindset and idea, that truly turns loose of the fear, and then that empowers you, and you were making a key point.
Well, see, Michael needs to come to understand that before you can help another person, you must be strong in yourself. And then from your model, pretty much like Alex, what you are a walking example of, is by your model, people have the egalitarian right then, either do as you do or not to do as you do. You can't force anything down people's throats.
It's the example. It's the standard.
It's exactly. And people who are sovereign within, who've understood that they can find their center, they can find their own inner truth. And as I said, that's not one size fits all. It is not going to work on a social level where, because again, that's regimentation. That's the fascist model, is one size fits all for all people, as we say, as we do, not as we act. So the most important thing is to realize that, you got to go within yourself into the sanctity and the kingdom of your own being, and find your own center. And then from that place, in a total state of fearlessness and passion, take on the rival or the adversary, and like I often say in my work, when you are so strong, this is pretty much borrowed from martial arts, when you are so inherently strong that your enemy cannot destroy you, then your enemy has lost. You can't go after them using the tools that they've provided for you. You can't enter into this duel with the swords and the guns that they have primed and offered you. That has been tried in the past centuries, and it hasn't worked. We have not been overcome this tyrant, this Leviathan, for the reasons that you mentioned, because we've not been able to break the spell of their particular kind of sorcery. That's absolutely right.
But sir, you were bringing up before the break when we were coming out, I want the full audience to hear it, about we owe it to our ancestors and the enslavement they went through. Finish that point.
Well, this is what my particular motive is that even if a person is not humanitarian enough, Alex, to do it for the rest of humanity, that's all right. Do it at least for the dead within your own family, the mothers, the grandparents, the grandfathers, the ancestors who died on the fields, who plowed, who suffered, who was murdered in wars of ritual, wars of blood, right? These are your own ancestors. For goodness sake, people should be motivated to do it for your own lineage, the people who cried into the night saying, why is this happening to us? Why are we living in this amount of abject poverty? Why are our sons and daughters dying on the fields of these tyrants?
Yeah.
So we should be motivated just by that, even if we don't care.
The incredible sorrow, the glee the enemy had at ripping babies apart and enslaving, and the nobles loving the people, starving beneath them. The raw enjoyment of depriving people. I can't imagine that, but that's the enemy's soul. They love greed. They love hurting you. They love they are control freaks.
And they can't wait to find another more innocent, just like the 20 million Inca that were killed in South America, or the Irish genocide, or the South African genocides, you see, or the opening of the British East India Company and the terrible degradation they did in India. They want to subjugate the entire world. They're trying it now over there in Iraq and Iran. You see, they don't look at you as an Iranian, or if you read their own works. If people go to their own works and go to the works of these people like the Albert Pike,
they look at you as cattle, as an animal, as an insect that is to be eradicated, and their religion is viciously tearing you apart.
That's right. How many jugglers can you fit into one room? It doesn't matter, you see, who juggles what ball, Islamic, Judaic, Christian, conservative, labor. That is all for the juggling act of the world. It doesn't mean a thing to these people. They just look at you as basically fodder that can be ritually murdered whenever the time or the particular astrological conjunctions take place, when they need to sacrifice your ass to their cause on the
All right, Michael Desarian,
on the altars of their sacrifice.
Michael Desarian, I apologize to Chris, Robert, and others. Call me back tomorrow. I'll get to you first, or call back next time Michael Desarian's on. Michael, let me set you up the next few weeks for a part 2, okay?
Well, let me get we're going to release our DVD, and I'll make sure you get one, and we can talk about that.
All right, God bless you. Take care. Let me say bye to you when the show ends in just a moment. Everybody, retransmission with key economic analysis and news starts now on the Internet refeed, one place, Infowars.com.